Good afternoon and Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the regular board meeting for the Sunshine Coast Regional District for Thursday, January 8th, 2026. It is 1:01 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District is located on the territories of the Shishal and Squamish Nations. Directors, we do have an amended agenda in front of us today. The minutes, item 3.1, the minutes were replaced with an updated version. Directors, any other changes to make to the agenda? Director Stamford.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to have a notice of motion entered into item 8.
Okay, thank you, Director Stamford. You've provided that by email to everybody. I forwarded it to the recorder so that she's got it as well.
Point of order on that. Is that a notice of motion or a motion? You want to move it today, right?
I put it as a notice of motion, but if the board is amenable, we could vote on it at that point. But my intent was a notice of motion at this
I
point.
suppose, yeah, from a procedural perspective, is there anybody that's opposed to discussing and voting on it today? Go ahead and introduce.
So the subject is simply that the feasibility study has been completed for the New Brighton dock, and there's no funding or any option for further activity in the upcoming budget about this subject. I'd like to see a small amount put in for basic further communication ability through staff to further any actions for the feasibility study.
And I think the important thing to note there was that you're proposing to fund it through an Area F function. I think the feasibility service.
There's
right?
yeah, that's correct, which is similar to how the previous feasibility study was funded last budget.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Director White.
Sounds like it's not ready to be a motion quite yet, if we don't have a number.
It's actually all in our email.
Oh, okay,
Director
okay.
Stamford did send it around.
Okay.
It's $15,000, I think, is the dollar figure that was associated with the motion. So, yeah.
Well, procedurally, I'm suggesting it should be a motion to get it done, and rather than a notice of motion.
Which is why I'm looking to see if there's anybody opposed to us just debating it when we get to that item on the agenda. And I'm not seeing anybody, so we will debate it and discuss it and vote on it today.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else, directors, in the agenda that needs to be changed or adjusted? If not, I'll call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. First up, item 3.1, the regular board meeting minutes of December the 11th, 2025. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes other than the date itself? December 11th, 2026. But I don't see anybody looking to flag anything. So I will ask for a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Directors, is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business to discuss from those minutes at this time? I don't see any hands up. So with that, we have no presentations or delegations. We will move to reports. Item 6.1, Committee of the Whole meeting recommendations 1 through 9 of December 11th, 2025. Directors, do you want to pull any of these recommendations for separate consideration before I ask for a motion for the block? I don't see hands. Would somebody like to move endorsement of the block? Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Item 6.2, Electoral Area Services Committee recommendations 1 through 9 of December 18th, 2025. Again, directors, do you wish to pull any of them for separate consideration? And if not, would somebody like to move endorsement of the block? Moved. Seconded. Thank you, Director McMahon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Next up, we have item 6.3, which is resolutions to Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities. And did you want to introduce or hear if there's any questions? Perfect. We do have one resolution, I believe, that's being suggested. Bear with me while I get my report open here. Okay, actually, we don't have it attached.
Thank you. I did consider this as a worthy question to send to AVICC for consideration. What it is I've noticed, especially in rural areas, in my case, the islands, concerns with neighbors not being able to afford the new plans and the requirements for step code 3, which came in March of 2025. And it's just one more layer of expense that people in rural areas with added expenses already, such as having to transport stuff to rural areas, it's just one more layer. And they're just saying that, and I've actually had a few people walk away from building altogether. It's just one step too much. So the request here is for the province to consider exempting single residents in rural areas of a square footage of 1,750 square feet to be exempt from the step code 3 and to be part of the original code, which is energy efficient, especially for small buildings. The step code is negligible difference for smaller dwellings. They already have a level of efficiency that would be adequate. So that is why I've put this resolution forward for consideration.
Thank you, Director Stamford. And that's in the staff report on page 2. That was on me. I was looking for a separate attachment. So thank you for that introduction. Directors, any questions about this motion that's being suggested? Director McMahon.
Yeah, I am generally supportive of this motion. I had some discussion with some other rural residents who were pointing out that the higher building costs are actually incentivizing people to build larger homes. And that's defeating a lot of the point of trying to build energy efficient dwellings and smaller dwellings that use less materials and less footprint. So I think this may not be exactly the right answer, but I think this is a discussion that we need to be having. A lot of the materials and the trades that are required to do this work are not available in remote areas. So we're pricing people out of building and in some cases repairing their homes.
Thank you. Director Gabius.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not going to support this resolution for a variety of reasons. Like, my first instinct is to say like we should not be moving backwards on the energy step code. I do agree with the objective. I do think that housing is becoming more and more unaffordable. We want landowners to be able to build a modest home, but to carve out an exception to the energy step code, like, is that the best way to achieve that? It seems kind of it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. So, if we remove that straw, maybe the camel will spring back up. Like, I feel like there's a lot of other factors that make housing really expensive to build. And so to pick on that, I think is the wrong approach. I feel like we haven't discussed the step code a whole lot at this table. I am not super proficient in it. I would need more information. I think there's the resolution includes claims that I can't verify myself, and I would need some professionals to help me, give me some data, some information to inform my decision. So I think we need to have that conversation. It would be good to have that conversation here first before we take it to AVICC or UBCM. I could see a lot of opposition to this resolution from other local governments. So what I would prefer to do is not send this to AVICC, but instead kind of workshop something that might be more effective that we could then propose for UBCM. So I'm not going to support it as it is today, but I really enjoyed the discussion.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Director Bax and then Director Stanford.
Yeah, I don't see this as taking a step backwards at all. I think it is that sometimes we take too many steps forward and we're not aware of the consequences of what we've done, and sometimes it's a right sizing of a thing is required. And I do support this, and I do understand the justification behind it, and I think it's ready to go. Anything we can do to help build smaller buildings to house people that need housing, I think is a step in the right direction. And just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. If you've made a mistake and it's taken a long time and it's cost a lot of money to make it, doesn't make it that you shouldn't give up on that thing. You know, sometimes you do have to abandon things that are just wrong. And I don't think that this step code applied to smaller buildings is really going to help at all. It just seems to be hindering the whole process.
Thank you, Director Bax. Director Stanford.
Yeah, I think that these comments are important. I do want to point out that housing, the challenge of housing, especially in rural areas, there is no magic bullet. There's going to be no one thing that makes the greatest difference. But this is a small step that, I keep using the word step, and it's kind of confusing. But it's a small aspect of trying to build in rural areas that have zoning that limits sometimes the amount of square footage, sometimes the number of buildings on a piece of land, that provides the kind of incentive for people to at least know that they can build a small dwelling and move ahead in a timely way. And it is a really good point that often the expertise to develop this kind of permitting or planning is not available in smaller communities. And I have noticed that this has been a real challenge for my neighborhood. And I have heard about other rural areas where this is a challenge. And I think, yes, people will consider other options on this, but I think there is support for trying to find a small solution to the housing issue in rural areas. So that's why I continue to think it's at least a good starting point. And I do, if we move it to AVICC, then we can continue to learn more about it and understand the impacts, because we are looking at step code 4 now. So this is just continuing in a certain direction, and it's leaving people of lesser means behind.
Thank you. Director White, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I feel like I need to know more about this too. It's a lot of it is in the way that we frame it, I think. I think it needs to be, if this were to go to AVICC, it would need to be quite delicately framed in a way that's about housing and this unique position where, and I'll just say why. I mean, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of municipal councils and their perceptions of this. I have a general perception when I see my tiny little municipality with small lots, that a lot of the larger homes being built in the Gibsons area right now are actually outside of the municipality with larger lots. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for kind of those single-family homes to be for an encouragement. But we're talking about smaller buildings here specifically. And when I think of kind of from the municipal context, those really smaller buildings would be more like carriage houses that we've been talking about for weeks at the town of Gibsons. Like, are these economics, step code economics, going to equally affect carriage homes, affordability of building those in municipal areas? Because I'm kind of looking, that might be a commonality here that could be taken to some of the municipal voters at AVICC when it comes to getting their support for such a thing. And but if it's kind of only framed in the rural context, they might not be able to relate, A, and B, they might even have some of their own biases or perceptions about, well, rural's more where there'd be larger homes that should have a step code. So that's what I'm raising.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Director Stanford.
I think these are all good points, and but I also would like to see the province come back with some solutions, and this gives them a direction to provide solutions. So if it comes around that carriage homes could be included in this, then that works too. It's the size of the home for efficiency. That's really the crux of where we're trying to get at, that there's a benefit to having smaller homes and that they are naturally more efficient and they can fit within a different code in order to get the same level of modern greenhouse gas reductions. And that can translate over other municipal or rural, but at this case, I'm focusing on rural. That's how I represent as rural. And that's where I've noticed the problem. And also in terms of supporting green bylaws, it provides an incentive for smaller footprint over a larger lot. So it encourages people to build a bit smaller, which I think is a worthy goal when you're in the rural areas.
Thank you, Director Stanford. And just before I go back to Director Gabias, I do note that like the whereas clause talks about urban versus non-urban, but the actual therefore, like the enactment itself, doesn't specify that divide between urban and non-urban. And so, you know, I don't see the therefore clause excluding carriage homes even now. And so I think that'll be perhaps part of the context that we need to talk about if this goes forward. Director Gabias.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that in the resolution, there's no mention of the rural aspect. I think I'm trying to think short-term gains and long-term gains. Like in the short term, great, it would create more affordable housing, but looking at the long-term energy savings, cost savings for homeowners, I'm struggling because I don't understand the impacts that would have. So it's really difficult for me to back this up and to go to bat for this. And I do think we need more information, and this would be coming to board for adoption. So I'm not sure what we could do. No, we're doing it right now. Oh, shoot. So there would be no reconsideration. Well, the minutes, but yeah, I feel like it needs work. I think we need to really determine what the objective is here, what we're really trying to accomplish, and what's the best way to accomplish that. I do not believe that carving out exemption to a step code, which is moving forward we're evolving, we're building better buildings that are more comfortable, healthier, and so I think we need to to kind of focus on the objective and try to see if there's a more efficient way of getting to it.
Thank you. Director White and then Director Bax.
I agree with Director Gabius on this. I think this is a really valid concern. I think the message that I think, unfortunately, the way it would come across at AVICC is in the way that this is worded, I think, is going to be troubling and not, unfortunately, I think probably not in alignment with some of our other values for the Sunshine Coast and values as a regional district in terms of environmental sustainability. And I mean, I think that the one that really jumps out at me is just the single family dwellings is like, it's kind of a, it's a bit of a controversial phrase these days because, and the province has made it that way as well, in that there's a real push for higher density as a way of lowering people's carbon footprint, and just that kind of thinking. This goes the complete opposite. Like, it's very counterintuitive, and I understand where it is, but it needs to be explained better because in some way. And I think I agree with Director Gabius that I think some other angles might be more successful in doing this. I feel like this is so nuanced that it's probably not likely to be very successful on the AVICC floor, and we'll find ourselves kind of arguing against people who have really strong environmental values that we share, which is uncomfortable. So I agree, but I do think we should approach this in some other way, perhaps in advocacy to the Ministry of Housing or something directly from the SCRD with a little more of a nuanced explanation.
Thank you. Director Bax, and then Director Lee, did I see? No? Okay. Director Bax.
There are many other jurisdictions that are dealing with housing issues by allowing an easier pathway to smaller buildings. And anything that we can do, this may or may not be the right avenue to encourage that. I see that the City of Vancouver allows laneway homes up to 950 square feet, and the City of Burnaby is like 1,507 square feet. The 1,750 square feet is fairly large, but we're a smaller area and we have larger lots. Anything that we can do to allow builders to encourage them to build smaller homes, I think accomplishes the environmental impact that we are striving for. Even if we're making a compromise at this level, it's still accomplishing something that we see as an outcome that we're looking for. Should this not be endorsed by the board today, I noticed that the deadline for this application to the AVICC in the next section of this is the 15th of February. 12th of February, thank you, Chair. And that should this not pass today, I think there's going to be an opportunity to revisit. Would that be correct? Will we have a chance to bring other resolutions forward in time before this deadline to submit them to AVICC? Or are we too slow?
Thank you for the question, Director Bax. I think if the board wants to do something different, somebody's going to need to volunteer to champion working with staff on bringing something back, because we don't really like to try and develop this stuff on the fly. And I think it's something that, like, this is something that Director Stanford is bringing forward, having, worked with staff to make sure that it is appropriate and fits the objectives. And so to turn that around in time, approval would need to be given at the next board meeting in 2 weeks in order to meet the submissions deadline. And so, one of the other things to consider is that because it's province-wide if it's province-wide in nature, it's something that could be submitted directly to UBCM. It doesn't have to go through AVICC first. So there could be laneway to develop something over the coming months. And from that perspective. So I'll look to Director Stanford, maybe after her comments. I'm not seeing any other hands. Maybe after her comments, she wants to make a motion.
I just hope that directors consider this is not an either or. It's not baked in. Often we do bring resolutions to the floor that we're trying out. We're hoping that it can move forward. And frankly, the amount of time the province takes to come back with a reasonable response, it's more the concept of it than actually having it go forward at any reasonable time. But it doesn't change the fact that this is a tool. It's not the tool. It's an option that's available, and I saw it potentially for rural areas because we don't often have the same kind of density options, or we all have different tools to use, and this would be one of them. And in terms of looking at it for accommodation for being environmentally sustainable, this is part of the point. It's a different way of getting to the same goal, that having smaller homes in certain areas is actually a more sustainable, more environmentally worthy goal than having a larger home on a piece of property. So it's just another aspect. It's not to replace anything. It's to just give us more tools. So that's the intent of this.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
If we do indeed have 2 weeks, I wouldn't mind taking the opportunity to try and massage it a bit further to see. I noticed there is no reference to unincorporated areas, and I think that that's part of the picture here. So, I very much like the intent of this, and I wouldn't want to drop it for another year. So perhaps we could work on it and come back in 2 weeks.
Is that a hand up, Director Gabus? Or Director McMahon, did you want to maybe make a motion to refer this back or defer it?
Can we table? Is that the right thing to do?
No. I think at this point you'd want to refer it back.
You would be referring the motion to the board meeting, if I'm understanding? So the action would be to refer, not to table.
Yeah, to refer it to the
Sure. I would
January
move
22nd.
referring it to January 22nd board meeting.
Okay. And in the meantime, you guys can work on some adjustments to it and bring those forward. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. All right. And I don't see any other hands or discussion, so with that, we're going to move on to item 7.1, which is correspondence received from the Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce, dated December the 1st, regarding a proposal to form a joint amalgamation exploration task force. Directors, comments, discussion, anything to raise or talk about with this particular letter? Director Bax. Okay, Director Stanford, as the chamber representative, did you want to go first?
Thank you. I just want to provide a very brief overline of the conversation that I was part of with the chamber in mid-December when they had their meeting. And it was interesting to hear the different perspectives from the members. They don't have a very specific goal in mind. It's quite wide-ranging as to the possibilities that they're looking at. They want to have a conversation. That seems to be the important part of this. And at the same time, they need a number of resources. And there's significant background that I think would be required, which as a member of this board and member of the regional district is concerning in terms of the amount of data that would be required. And since they don't have specific requests at this point, I just found it an interesting conversation that I'm willing to participate in going forward. But there were a number of items brought up in the letter. So that's just sort of what I got from the conversation at the meeting in mid-December.
Thank you. Director Bax.
Sure. Well, I appreciate what the chamber would like to see as far as efficiencies with all the local governments. We could never become a municipality all at once because the cost of the roads alone would just sink us all. There already is an awful lot of sharing staff to staff between the regional district and the municipalities. And I'm not sure if the chamber is aware of the level of cooperation that already exists.
Thank you, Director Bax. Director McMahon, I see you reaching for a microphone. Did you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've already commented on this on my website, but I'll say the chamber is pointing at a lot of challenges, which are real challenges, but they have immediately jumped to a conclusion that the answer is amalgamation. And I would beg to differ that it's not that simple. There isn't a magic bullet that is going to make our situation easier. Local governments, we lack the tools and resources to deal with the problems we're dealing with, both in terms of complexity and scope. And there is no question of that, and it's frustrating for everybody. But rearranging the governance deck chairs is not, in my view, the answer. And to even start this conversation, you would have to start with a great deal of education. Gibson's recently did a citizens task force citizens assembly, the residents' assembly, right. But it had to start with a great deal of education on the part of everybody taking part in it, just to understand how the system works right away. So that would have to take place before you would reach a conclusion. If my community associations were asking for a review of the structure of local governments, then I would seriously sit down and talk with them about maybe doing that. But I'm not seeing a groundswell of people coming forward saying we need to review our governance and amalgamate exactly what with what. Not clear. So I have a hard time supporting this, although I do appreciate the frustration that everybody is feeling in dealing with the many issues that we are facing right now.
Thank you. Director Inkster.
Thanks, Chair. One question I have, because I've seen the little bit of information on this and we haven't fully discussed it. We're talking about the initial pieces now, is just through you, Chair, to Kate Stanford, who has the ability, Director Stanford has the ability to, through time, be at the meetings. I have difficulty on that day often. It's a work day. To give me some insight into what may be happening in terms of the presentation. When you introduced the good motion yourself and Councillor Shepherd at our table on housing, it was very clear you were introducing the motion, and the ideas were the two of yours as a solution to the housing issue. Was presented to us. I don't know who the originator of the motion is at the regional district. To us from the chamber. I don't know who the originator is, who the initial motion came from, and who the seconder was, i.e. It appears to be in the letter of scoping exercise, but I don't know what the ideas are of the introducers, what they would like to see, and I'm not clear on that. Maybe you could give me some insight as to who the originators were and what their purpose was, to give me some help and clarity. Thanks, Chair. Through to Director Stanford.
Thank you. Director Stanford?
Just in response, I attended this December meeting, but I hadn't attended the previous 2 monthly meetings. So this came forward as an interest of the chamber itself, rather than a specific individuals within it. So you could say through the chair. Basically, that's how it's being presented. I think the chamber is looking for the conversation. They want to have more answers to their questions. And this is a way of starting it. So they would look to beginning a task force and then going through the more specific lanes as what exactly they require, where their funding would come from. So they haven't even started the process yet. This is the very beginning of reaching out to the municipalities. And although it isn't put into the letter, regional districts as distinct legislative bodies. So again, this is all part of the education that needs, that we either participate in or we don't. So, you know, I think it's at that beginning of stage. They haven't even got to the points of a plan yet. Because when you ask about goals, there's no preconceived end to this at this point. It's asking the questions first and then getting better sense of how the task force could come together.
Larry, to that, thank you. So Chair, you mean Gaetan Ray?
No, their
It was just
chair
not clear.
is,
Larry Fowler, okay. I
Yeah.
thought it was, okay. Yeah, just,
Once a motion's been made, similar to here, once the motion's been
it's-
made, it's adopted by the board, right?
yeah, yeah. I
it's
just
Mr.
wasn't-
Arthur Cullen. Is
Oh,
their
okay,
chair.
okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, really? Sorry. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Director Gabius?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and and thank you to the chamber for the letter and for the for reaching out. And I think if I think all local governments are constantly trying to improve and create efficiencies, and so appreciate their support on that. I would welcome a discussion on how we can further that, how we can collaborate better, how we can be better partners on the coast, because our objective is to make life better and spend money wisely, and so I'd welcome that. But the conversation of, is restructure the answer, yes or no? Like, I think if the objective is to make sure that we're efficient, I don't see that that's the conversation that I want to have. But if the chamber is open to maybe changing their scope or and want to facilitate that conversation, I'd be open to that. But as it is, I'm not. I wouldn't support that one. This request. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Stanford? No? Okay. Any other discussion from directors? My own perspectives at this table. I'm not afraid of us having a conversation with the chamber, with the other governments. You hear people all the time on social media and things like that talking about politicians wanting to preserve their jobs and all that stuff. And I mean, we're only here between election periods. We could all be thrown out at the next election. So from that perspective, I don't worry about, whether I'm going to get reelected on this issue or not. I think there are a number of hidden things that might not be apparent, that might become apparent through this study, that realize that it's not viable. The things that come to my mind are policing and roads. I think, those alone could be a financial deal breaker in terms of finding efficiencies, because it's just going to result in more provincial downloading. But I'm not afraid of having those conversations and of exploring those things. I think I just worry about the timeline. The next 6 to 12 months is going to end up right smack in the middle of the election period. And I also worry that, there's a request for a financial commitment to help facilitate this, but we don't actually have a dollar value associated with that financial commitment. So there's, I think February 1st might be hard for us to make a deadline on, but I think it's worth conversations continuing. Director Stanford.
So yes, as a representative for the regional district, I'm happy to continue participating with this task force to get a better sense of what they're looking for. I also have quite a bit of experience with how governance strategy works through the Islands Trust and the challenges and expectations that that kind of process takes. So at this point, I think that's as far as I'm willing to take this, given that there is not really specific asks other than that that we can respond to until we get a better sense of their goals and their budget.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'm not seeing anybody making any motions to this. Director Stanford, you are the representative to the chamber. You've expressed a willingness to continue conversations with them. I think if there's more to bring back to board, you can do that. And, any final comments, directors? Okay. Then that concludes item 7.1. So we're going to move on to item 8.1, which is a motion regarding feasibility study and funding for New Brighton Dock. Now, Director Stanford, did you want to discuss and then introduce your motion? Or introduce your motion, please?
I'll introduce it first. The motion is that I move that the Sunshine Coast Regional District Board add $15,000 to round 2 for consideration of the 2026 budget to support ongoing discussions and communications related to New Brighton Dock, and that the funding be provided through the Area Feasibility Service Function 155.
Thank you, and I've got a seconder for that. It is a single participant function, so it'll be voting all directors when we get there. It's on the floor. Director Stanford, did you want to express a little more about this?
Yeah, just, I understand that, we've completed the feasibility study. It didn't come out with any specific actions, but the problem still remains. And the challenges are still there. They're at many different levels. And that staff can have a role to play, especially in working with Enchkai Development Corporation and any relationships with Squamish Nation and the BC Ferries in the province. There seems to be an alignment with conversations with SCRD staff there. So this is just providing a little bit of flexibility for us to continue those conversations. As in the meantime, I will continue advocating at the provincial level and coordinating any kind of solution I can find. So it's just giving me some options there.
Thank you very much, Director Stanford. Director Bax.
Just a question, not used to this kind of thing. So would the money be used for like travel expenses to Squamish to meet with Enchkai for like hotels or snacks or I don't know what's the money going to be used for? Ferry fare?
I will look to our CAO, but I believe primarily it would be to fund staff time to work on this.
Staff time.
Because of the way the regional district is structured,
Okay.
they don't have a cost center to apportion this sort of thing to.
All right. But
I'll look to
going there would probably be a good idea.
CAO.
Yeah, we would likely bring a budget proposal and give some more detail at round 2.
And to follow up in terms of snacks and travel, I have, as we all do, we have constituent budgets that I will be working with.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? I don't see any hands up. This is voting all directors. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Director Stanford, for bringing it forward. Okay, we don't have bylaws. We do have directors' reports. I know, it's been a long time since we've done them. I'm going to start at that end, and we'll work our way around. Go ahead, Director Lee.
My report is I had a great holiday, and I have nothing to report.
Thank you. All right, Director Inkster, let's see if you can beat that. Either way, maybe you have more to report, maybe you have less to say.
Yeah, I usually have less to say, more to report, don't I, Chair? I want to talk about snacks. No, yeah, lots of snacks. No, I just want to say that good Christmas season in Seashelt. As I mentioned previously, the parade, Light the Lights, New Year's activities, and just a reminder to the board and others to support your local Legion. They're very good contributors to our community, not only in funding, but events. And it's really important that we remember that. And so go have a meal at your Legion. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Inkster. Director White?
We had a board check-in this morning, so I've got nothing to add.
All right, thank you. Director Bax?
Yeah, I was really quite pleasantly surprised by our board check-in. It was kind of refreshing and to talk about the things that we did talk about. I had a great holiday, and my community put on a celebration of lights that was really quite well received, and looking forward to bigger and better things for 2026.
Great, thank you very much. Director Gabius?
Thank you, Chair. Happy New Year, everybody. I attended the community priorities session in Gibsons at Elphinstone Secondary School. Chair and I wanted to go check it out, see what it's all about. Well attended, people of all ages. It was a really good crowd. Well done to staff and mayor on a good event, and really appreciated the format of how he did it, the presentation, and especially the accountability piece where he said, what you told us last year, here's what you told us in 2025 that you wanted to see, and here's where we're at with these things. I felt it was very successful, and people seemed to really feel like their voices were being heard and that they had a real hand in shaping their community. So well done. And just upcoming on Monday, the BCMCLC is meeting with Adrian Dix. I did mention that in my previous director's report. So Adrian Dix, Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions. And the focus is going to be on the Clean BC independent review recommendations. And so the steering committee, which I'm now a member of, will advocate for clarity, consistency, support, and flexibility when it comes to Clean BC policies and programs. And I will have the opportunity to ask questions and to convey things to Minister Dix. So if there's anything that the directors would like to speak to me about that I could convey, I'm happy to listen. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director McMahon?
I just spent a couple of weeks trying not to think about the SCRD. I didn't succeed, but I didn't prepare a report. However, I will give a brief public service announcement that 2 organizations in our community are asking people to sign up as monthly donors in order to have capacity funding, and that is the Affordable Housing Society and the St. Bart's Food Bank. Reliable, consistent funding is a huge problem for nonprofit organizations, and they are hoping that the community can step up and help them have a stable base of operations.
Thank you very much. Director Paul?
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everybody. It was pretty quiet. I got some rest time and stuff and participated in a few things like the lighted boats in Roberts Creek, which I've been doing for years. It was a pretty big turnout to see all that stuff. There was some interesting participants with boats and stuff in there that were pretty big. So it was amazing to see that community get together for that. And I've Director Inkster, that same thing that I've heard recently about the legions and stuff like that struggling. I think in this economy, a lot of stuff is struggling. There's a lot of community groups that are needing a lot of resources and stuff like that. So yeah, another public service that if you can do it, like support them. So that's really good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And Director Stamford?
It's been pretty quiet in Area F, but a couple of highlights. Community members and neighbors from West Howe Sound along Port Mellon Highway took the opportunity over Christmas to come over to Gambier to visit our fire equipment service program that we have and got an idea of how it works in other rural communities. And it's specifically around providing training for individual owners on how to use fire equipment that then is community owned. So it's very, very different from a volunteer firefighting program. So for them to get a sense of options that they may have for their areas is just a start. But at this time, where it isn't a fire season, it's a really useful time to start those kind of conversations. So I'm looking forward to seeing that move forward. And the two communities, an ocean apart, but they often have the same issues. The other things that came up over Christmas, burning regulations. Unbeknownst to islanders, conservation walks the walk. They come over and they are checking primarily for hunting, but they will pick up on burning, and their focus is definitely any sense of burning garbage, they will charge. And then finally, on hunting, we have had a situation with a wounded deer from hunting. So again, it's just being aware of the regulations and how to act appropriately when you have a wounded animal in hunting. And it's not whether hunting is good or bad, it's how you understand the regulations and how skilled you are to perform your duty and follow up, because it's not pleasant. So those are the community information or community service announcements I'd like to make.
Thank you, Director Stamford. I, like the rest of you, thoroughly enjoyed the time off. Having the chance to sort of recharge with family and friends, and looking forward to 2026. It's a new year. It's new opportunities abound. I did really enjoy going to the Town of Gibson's community dialogue around budget. I was hoping to catch the public hearing the next night, but it didn't end up in my calendar, so I completely missed it. But yeah, don't really have anything to add other than, yeah, thank you everybody for your engagement, for reaching out to us, for emailing us, for having conversations with us about the things that matter, and keep it up. And with that, I think we're going to move on. So we don't have any new business. We do have an in-camera, so I look for a motion that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 90, 1 ADGK, and 2 BIII of the Community Charter. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? That's carried. We don't have anybody in our gallery, so we're going to take a moment to go in camera, and we'll see you when we come back. And welcome back to the regular board meeting of Thursday, January 8th, 2026. It's 2:23. We've finished our in-camera portion. We're at the end of our agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the next one.